Hey, what is up, YouTube? This is Toad, and today I'm going to be talking about the abstractification of reality, which is a process, okay? And it's basically the result of abstractification of the mind, okay? So typically, if I were to say something that makes no sense, it has no bearing on anything you've ever heard before, and if I were to say it with no explanation of what I meant, then that would be an abstract sentence, and it would be the result of an abstract thought. Okay, so when you say stuff like the code has been deleted and don't give context, or I was an owl, which is from a hiking trip, but anyway, if you say things like that, those are abstract thoughts. And if you want to understand kind of the complex and uncharted emotions that abstract thoughts actually are, or the weird vibrations that they actually are, check out liminal spaces, which is basically images of human places with no people in them. Those normally instigate your brain to start producing or attracting those abstract thoughts. Or as well, things like wormwood can do that, and other things. In the Marissa Fragrance family. So, yeah. But the abstractification of reality is the result of keeping yourself in an abstract state of mind for long enough to where you attract experiences that validate that state of mind. And the only way that can happen, because typically reality is fairly rigid if you're staying on one line of it, is that won't work. So in order for reality to be abstractified, or abstracted, what has to happen is you have to wiggle between timelines, wiggle between versions of reality, versions of physics, okay? And that's the result of when things abstractify. And this isn't to be confused with psychosis. And what psychosis is when it's basically the difference between being a high-speed runner and being thrown out of a moving bullet train. Psychosis is like being thrown out of a moving bullet train, whereas abstractification is a high-speed runner. And you know, a runner wouldn't tell someone being thrown out of a bullet train that I wish I could go that fast, which is what a lot of people say to people who struggle with psychosis. It's not the same thing. Spiritual abstractification and psychosis are different, okay? One is on purpose and controlled, while the other is not. And spiritual abstractification is not always on purpose or controlled, but there is a difference, and you'll probably know that difference. So anyway, yeah, when you change your brain, to think differently and to just not think normally, to think in terms of metaphors, but not create the metaphors from a preconceived notion. When the metaphors just kind of come to you in your head, and then they snowball into this very complex and deep thought that you don't really know how to communicate, that's an abstract thought. When you keep yourself in that state of mind for long enough, it creates an abstract reality, which means that you're going in and out of timelines, in and out of laws of physics. It means that you're wiggly on your timeline. You're going from one track to another, and not like rigidly, like this track, this track, this track. No, you're like drifting along. And so I will now share a personal encounter I had yesterday. I was drinking a can of Bang, and it was black cherry vanilla. And I drank the entire can, okay? And then, in my hand, I put it down, and it got heavy again, and it was half full again, just like that. So I stopped drinking, and it was already refilled, so I got out of the car, and I said, Mom, I got a Jesus Bang, because it refilled itself, and then it didn't refill itself after that, so I got another can of the same flavor, and it also did not refill itself, but not on the same day, because that'll give you a heart attack. And also, I had a very strange dream. this is just going to be a let's talk about stuff video because I'm not going to stay on topic or I'm not going to make a video. I had a really strange dream that this really tall, shadowy figure was in my room and it started standing above me, but for some reason, this thing didn't creep me out. It was like, okay, you're there, and that's fine, and I'm not scared. And so what I did, because I understood that it was a dream, or maybe I didn't have faith that that could happen in a rigid reality kind of scenario, is I snapped my fingers to make the lights turn on, and the lights turned on. And then I snapped my fingers again, and I made a coffee table appear with some beverages on it. So me and the shadow sat down and had some beverages for a while, and neither of us said anything. It was about a 20-minute dream. And so that was the entire dream. That's an example of an abstract dream. An abstract dream might be construed as a nightmare, or construed as a night terror or a fever dream, but in your head you know it's something different. You know it's something deeper than that, or there's some kind of symbolism to it, or maybe it's even prophetic or something, even if it's entirely abstract and outside of the limits of rigid reality. So, yeah. So another thing is that, I'm going to take this hat off, it's kind of getting hot. So anyway, another thing is that the more negative experience, the more suffering you experience, the more negative things you encounter that cause you pain or uncomfortability, the more uncomfortability you experience, the more comfortable that you get with that uncomfortability. The more pain you experience, the more comfortable you become with that pain, even if it's still pain. Which is also one of the core foundations of the Wim Hof method, is to become comfortable with uncomfortability. But the deal is, if you never suffer, then you'll never enjoy what is indeed a fantastic experience. So that's just a simple truth that, like, kind of everyone knows, is that you can't have pleasure without pain, and you can't have peace without war, and you can't have health without disease, and you can't have blue without red, or red without blue, or wood without metal, or sand without clouds. So everything, every form of matter, is dependent on everything else, okay? And if something arises that's not dependent on anything, completely independent, then something must be dependent upon it, and it grows to be dependent upon the other thing. And that's called compensation. The universe compensates. When anything is created that isn't opposite to anything, or a original of anything, something has to be created that can oppose it. There can't be any force or creation that is completely alone. And another thing is that everything is energy, okay? Everything is energy, because think about it. Think about what life is. What is life? Life, if you look at it in a scientific definition, life is an organism. It's a tiny creature of sorts that can duplicate and create another one of itself, and grow and change, and then create another one of itself and grow and change and create another one until it creates a new thing, and that new thing creates another new thing, and that new thing creates another new thing, okay? And so on and so forth. But in the end, life is movement. Life is the blood flowing through our veins. It's kinetic energy. It is potential energy, because we have chemicals in our body that are waiting to react with each other to create, say, thermal energy in the form of stomach acid, or heat energy in the form of the friction of the blood flowing through our veins. That's what life is. It's energy. It's just more energy than other things. My body has more energy than that mattress that is out of your frame of view right now, or that punching bag. So when you look at it, life is just energy. And what's consciousness? Consciousness, if you look at it in a scientific definition again, is really just the electrons flowing through our brain, kinetic electrons, and also potential energy electrons. and also potential chemical reactions, potential hormone release that causes chemical reactions and completions in our brain. But it's all just energy in the end, okay? And they somewhat know, if you're looking at this completely objectively and without any spiritual lens on it, even if you're a complete atheist and a complete non-spiritualist, when you look at it, like, life is just motion, okay? And basically, but what was my, it's gone. Okay, that's what it was. Basically, they kind of know that there are more dimensions. They have some evidence of it, that there are maybe 11 dimensions, maybe 21, maybe 65 quintillion dimensions. But there are multiple. They know that there are probably multiple, okay? They know that life in the first and second dimension is not that likely, but it could exist. It might. Like, no one knows. It might exist in the second dimension. But we can't really know. The fourth dimension, they say that it probably doesn't have life either, because operations don't work the same. But operations would work differently in the fourth dimension. Like, maybe instead of organic carbon skin, because metal atoms behave differently in that dimension, it would be metal skin, because that would behave like skin in that dimension. But things might work differently, but they would also work the same. And my personal belief is that each dimension is just a reflection of all the other dimensions, except it's put together in a different way. Kind of like a 2x2 Rubik's Cube is still a Rubik's Cube. A 3x3 Rubik's Cube is still a Rubik's Cube. At the center, it's a Rubik's Cube. A 4x4 is still a Rubik's Cube. A 5x5 is it's still a Rubik's Cube. Even when you have like a 13x13 Rubik's Cube, it's still, at its heart, a Rubik's Cube. It's all reflections or tessellations of the original thing. So, yeah. In my opinion, I think that when we die, there's a fourth dimensional, or maybe a multi-dimensional imprint left, like a shadow of what we were, the neural pathways that we made, the motion of our blood flowing through our body. And eventually, when one of those dimensional bodies dies, the rest slowly die along with it. And then we're just energy again. We're just dispersed energy. And that dispersed energy eventually condenses, only parts of it. Other parts go into other things. Kind of like a drop of water. When you evaporate, and then you go into the cloud, and you become a drop of water again that falls down. You're a tiny speck of water, a condensed energy, and you fall back into the ocean after some time, after your life is gone. And when you're in that ocean again, you'll evaporate once more eventually. You might even go into the Mariana Trench and stay in this dispersed form for a long time, but eventually you'll inevitably evaporate and turn back into a cloud and back into a drop of water. Which could be hell, or it could be heaven, depending on how you look at it. And another thing is that I was thinking about the concept of hell and heaven, and if there is such a thing, is the point really to be in heaven and escape suffering, escape pain and loss and negative feelings that you don't like? Or is it to experience enough hell to where the fire burns away your impurities and unconscious aspects until you become more pure energy? You become a diamond that's too bright for hell to exist around you anymore, and so you transform hell into heaven in the form of alchemy. So I guess that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, subscribe, and comment. Goodbye. So, if you get what I'm about to say, then you'll get it. The code was deleted about a month ago. And then it came back for a day and a half. And then it was deleted again. And there was no years left. It was a new thing. It was outside of time. And I don't know if it's going to come back again or if it's fading away and being deleted slowly. Or as if this whole month has been a nanosecond on a computer. But as well as that, there is something surreal that's making itself real. And I'm not entirely sure what that is, but I'm faithful that it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So, I guess that's actually the end of the video. That other thing was just a fake ending, which happens a lot.